Hey, Jody, can you see my screen? Hey, Denise,
Hey, Randy.
my screen.
Yep, I can see it.
Hey, Denise,
Hey, Randy.
my screen.
Yep, I can see it.
Hey, Denise,
Hey, Randy.
my screen. This is really
Yep, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it too.
Hey, Denise, my screen. Why? This is really
Yep, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it too.
all right. My screen.
Yeah, I can see it too.
All right, maybe that'll do it. Some technical learning things. I think I was echoing back and forth. Hey, Kathy. I think you're muted.
You're right, I am, or I was.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Denise, how are you? Oh, I love that background.
Yeah, I wish I was there.
Me too.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Danny, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Gosh, we're so quiet. I think maybe we need some music playing in the background or something. Oh, Randy, that's great.
He's always got music playing.
Yep,
I
good.
quiet is not my thing. I don't know what for better or worse, when I was in college, my desk, we had a shared suite, and my desk was kind of in the living area, and I could learn to study even with a party going on.
That's perfect. And I'm the oldest of 6 kids, so I never had a quiet moment. Don't function well with quiet.
Who are we missing? I see Jody's with us. Scott, I just sent him a text.
Scott's waiting for me to let him in. I thought I'd let him cool his heels for a minute. Now,
We're still waiting for Paul and Donna.
yeah, and we are live, by the way, on YouTube right now. So
Okay,
watch your language, Jody.
gotcha. Has anyone heard how graduation's going today?
It was going very well. We had about a 20-minute delay because of rain.
Yeah.
Still going strong right now.
Okay.
I was over there for a while watching what I observed, the parents were really excited to be on the stage with their kids.
Neat.
So it was a lot different.
Okay,
So far, so good. We're supposed to get 59 kids through today and
Wow.
59 more through tomorrow. That's the plan. We actually had a family go through twice because there were siblings. So they all met on the stage for a final family photo afterwards.
oh, how nice.
Yeah, I mean, different, but I think it's going well,
Yeah,
considering the
good,
circumstances.
good.
Mr. Ward is here.
Hello, Scott.
Hey, how, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
We
How you
can't
guys
see
doing?
you, but we can hear you.
Oh, you can't see me?
Nope.
Okay.
Hi,
It's probably
Paul.
better.
Denny, everyone, how are you?
Good,
How are
Paul.
you?
Yeah, Paul, and yeah, there you go. Paul's on. Scott, your camera's not turned. There he is.
Oh, maybe I should turn it off.
No, no, no. If I'm on here, you have to be on
All
here.
right.
Has anyone heard from Donna today?
I've not.
And where's John? Is John Jones on?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I know she had some difficulty last time we did a Zoom meeting. She was trying to log on.
The one thing I'd say on the invitation, there are a couple of different links. One goes to a Google Hangouts. So yeah.
Zoom creates those links, and I'm not sure why it does that, because the only one, maybe what I'll do is create my own meeting. If we have to do this again, and just paste the right link in there.
Mhm.
Oh, there's Mark. Let's hope we don't have to do this much longer. Not that I don't mind Zoom. I'm getting tired of it, actually.
I think people are tired of Zooming with me because usually I'm walking whenever I'm trying to Zoom.
Mr. Dowdy?
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the jungle.
Or at least a forest in your case, Randy.
Yeah, Calvera State Park, north of Yosemite.
Wow. It's a pretty good reception for being that far away.
Hey, do you believe I have Wi-Fi out in the middle of this thing?
I'm waiting for a dinosaur to come out the back there. Looks like Jurassic Park.
Does.
Those sequoias are pretty impressive. Donna and John.
Donna and John are going to join us here momentarily.
Okay.
Mr. Ward, are you back on the road yet? Or
No, nope, not quite a thought yet, really. Yeah, until Some administrators are going to their offices. Actually, I did my first demo with an administrator with an office background instead of a 7-year-old and a Chihuahua.
Well, my daughter is a regional sales manager for Maple Leaf Instruments. They make orchestra instruments, and her territory is the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually not been on the road yet, but their other 2 sales reps have quit, so she's now got the whole United States.
Oh, wow.
And she's not traveling yet, but she's building training videos for music shops and stuff from home. So she's ready to get on the road.
I am quite sure this is the longest stretch I've not left Erie County. I don't know, in my life, maybe. I mean, maybe I was 4, we didn't go anywhere. You know, we went to church in Norwalk, so that's Huron County. So yeah, it might be my life.
You know, what's interesting, just to fill in some silence here, is we had a insurance consortium meeting today, and our insurance claims are way down the last 2 months. You know, no one's going to the doctor. They expect that after the summer, then we'll get all the elective stuff done again.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. I'm cutting my own hair. How am I doing?
Thank goodness for
Good
Zoom.
job. Good job.
I didn't think much of it. I got a few compliments. People are saying, "Hey, who's cutting your hair?" I'm doing it myself.
I cut Eric's hair last week.
Yeah. And
He still has some.
feel pretty, you feel pretty good about your handiwork, Jody?
Yep.
Good. Good.
Randy, Mr. Jones had just texted me. It said he's in the waiting room.
Not seeing him.
Yeah, there are a couple of paths. Actually, this is one of the things that happened to me last week.
We probably need to
I'm going to resend him the link.
yeah, just send, yeah.
So I'm going to step out and resend both he and Donna the link just to make sure.
I will do a better job of not giving you so many options. Well, I actually had some trouble because I've got 2 different Zoom accounts, and it kept thinking I was on my private and wouldn't let me in. My own meeting. I'm hosting this thing and it wouldn't let me in. I'm going to just do it. Just to check, can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
All right. Would you prefer to stare at that, or would you prefer to stare at each other?
I will not answer that question. Not a chance of coming out of that alive.
It was sad. So today I was thinking this will be the first summer in 40 years that I've not gone to Cedar Point. At least one time, 40 years.
Well, have they said no way?
Well, from what they said, if they do open, it's not, I'm gonna not go.
Oh, I got you.
Because they're talking about having an app and take runs and only allowing so many people in, and it just not something that I think I want to attempt to do.
I see.
Lines are bad enough as it is.
All right.
on a regular day. But at least they're honoring our season passes for next year, so that's good.
Yeah, that's really nice.
I know.
Mhm.
And it was a pretty nice deal. Now you get, if you jumped on the $99 deal, you're getting 2 years for $99. That could be the best deal in the history of Cedar Point.
Mhm. Plus, we went last fall because when you signed up for those passes, you could go to Halloween weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely got the money's worth.
If you go to the restaurants exterior to the park, like Bay Harbor Inn, you get a break too if you've got that pass. I don't know if you know that.
Mhm. For Christmas, this year and last year and Easter, I decided for my kids, instead of buying them stuff that they didn't need, I was going to buy experiences. So I got them season passes to Cedar Point for one, and then I got them season tickets to Playhouse Square. So we were seeing the Broadway series for the last couple years, and then we got lawn passes for Blossom, so it was unlimited concerts. So now this year they have all these great concerts. We went to like 9 concerts last summer, and then this year all of these concerts. We're not sure what's going to happen, so
See if it's letting you in now.
kind of a bummer.
Denise, of those 9 concerts, were any of them the Cleveland Symphony?
No, that's the only ones that they don't allow you to go to.
Ah, gotcha.
I know we were bummed about that, but yeah, we saw some really good ones, but it's unlimited, even sold out shows. So
Mr. Jones in yet, Randy?
No, sir.
Is he in the waiting room? Double check.
I keep my eyes peeled on the waiting room.
All right.
I'm in. It's not showing video, but I'm in.
Welcome, Donna.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
Hey, we'll be good at this eventually.
Paul, didn't you have a hard time last month getting into?
Yeah, and part of it, it took me a minute. Part of it was this, part of it was I was on an afternoon business related deal and cut it close to. So it was a combination of the 2 events.
Oh, okay.
Danny, did you resend the link to John?
I did.
There he is. John is joining there.
Okay.
Hey, Donna, whenever you're ready.
All right.
Thanks for your help. All right, bye.
All right. Well, call to order our May 19th, 2020 regular meeting for the Huron City Schools. Randy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jones.
Hey, I made it.
Yeah. Mrs. Green,
Here.
Mrs. Mast,
Here.
Mr. Slocum,
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
Okay. Let's do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Randy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yeah, I have a question. Did the one item under contract renewals, did Jen Bender get removed from that?
No, it's just on the list. I'll remove it.
Randy, back up very quickly. We do have an amendment to the original agenda that went live on Friday. It's under personnel, item 8I. We are asking for the board's approval of the staff contract renewals, the classified for next school year. It's in your packet under item 8I.
I'm sorry, Jody, let me pull, yeah,
Yeah, Jen Bender's still on there.
it's still on there, and I have no way to remove it from this list.
Okay.
Yeah, but,
When I recommend it, I'll recommend it excluding Mrs. Bender.
yeah, well,
Okay.
we didn't create a contract for her anyway, but,
Okay.
okay, so, sorry, Jody. And then you guys
No
got,
problem.
there was one adjustment we added today at the last minute, added I, and that is just, it's a legal thing, so we don't have people applying for unemployment over the summer.
Okay.
So anyway, Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Donna, do we lose her?
There she is.
Are
Donna,
we-
did you vote yes?
Did we lose Randy?
Did you vote yes?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I lost all sound there for a minute. Okay, then the next part of the agenda, we need to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Can we have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thanks, Ernie. And I didn't hear who second. Was that Scott?
John.
John,
Oh, John, okay. Okay, Randy, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes. Okay, so we'll move on to our treasurer's report.
Do we have to approve the minutes from the work session in April also? Or in,
They were both on the
They
agenda.
were both on there.
okay.
Okay, hang on here. All right, hopefully you guys everyone can see that. I'm going to focus my report on the 5-year forecast. A lot of this information you saw already. So I'm just going to try to hit some high points. And please, if you got any questions, let me know, and we'll go from there. So just a reminder, talk about why we have to do this twice a year. Give you a few resources if you want some more information. Go through a few slides and then wrap this up. The conclusions and recommendations aren't anything you haven't already heard, but just want to kind of put this a little more formal. By law, we have to do a 5-year forecast twice a year, and it has 3 purposes: to engage the local community and a board in long-term planning and financial discussions. It's our basis for a 412 certificate, which says we have enough money to operate, and we have to have a 412 certificate with most significant contracts. And then also Department of Education and the auditor uses to identify districts at risk. You have these in your packet, but there's a bunch of places if people want to go to look at how to read 5-year forecast, including our forecast once I post it this week. Okay, got some new graphics for you. Been playing a little bit. This is kind of tells a lot of the story in one place. So you can see where we started this fiscal year or end of last fiscal year, just shy of $5 million cash balance. We're gonna end the year at 4.2. It's about, we talked about already about $700,000 deficit. If you look up here in the right-hand corner, this is our revenue sources by source. So the blue is local and the orange is state. So obviously, and you know this better than I do, we are locally funded. The state share is significant, but it's obviously not our biggest source. On the expense side, the blue, oops, don't click. The blue is our salaries. The orange is our benefits. And then the green are purchase services. So obviously salary and benefits are our biggest cost driver. And then purchase services, about half the purchase services are for North Point, ESC for special education services, and half of the remaining is for open enrollment out. So those are the two biggest things on purchase services. And this bottom graph just shows you our cash balance over the next 4 years. Not, again, you've seen this already, but just in a little bit different format. So look at comparing November versus May. So back in November, you approved the 5-year forecast. The pink is November's forecast, and then this kind of gray is May. So if you look at our forecast, we end up about the same this May as we did November, but next year's better. We're actually, our subsequent years are a little bit better. And that's mainly as I've gotten a better handle on our expenses. And it also includes some cost reductions that were already put in place that we talked about on the work session. The 3 positions we're planning to absorb, that's built into the May forecast. Okay, so none of the other savings ideas that we have been built in yet, but the 3 positions that we've talked about absorbing are built in here. So that gives us a little bit more favorable cash flow. Not great, but we're at least still positive when we get out in the outer years. But who can predict that far out at this point? So instead of giving you the whole 5-year forecast, I simplified it into this sheet. Again, the bottom line is you see deficit spending all years of the forecast, and these middle years are better than what we had expected. This year and next year, the biggest chunks are being driven by our reduction in state funding. And in fact, I found out today, in fact, just before this meeting, we're losing $340,000 in state funding this year. I got to write them a check for $95,000 next month. I got to pay them back. They're not. We thought if there was, if our reduction was more than what our payments would be, that they'd carried over to next year, help us with cash flow. But no, we actually got to write them a check on what we owe the state. So I got to return about $95,000 in June to the state of Ohio. So we're still positive cash wise, but in 2023, that puts us very slim. And again, we'll probably have to borrow to make payroll, and definitely in 2024. And that's why when we start talking about new money, we need to act in here because of the time it takes. Our revenue, let's talk about revenue and expenses. You can see our annual revenue, we were doing well. We got a drop due to state funding, but we're still looking at having some slight increases because of just our normal value increases in valuation. We're at the 20 mil floor, so we're getting a little bit more real estate revenue there. On the expenditures, it's benefits and salaries are driving this, and I have assumed at this point that we're still under contract with the teachers for 1% increases the next 2 years, but there are no other increases built in here except for steps and changes on the salary schedule. So at this point, even with the classified union, we start negotiations. I took those raises out because of how badly our cash situation looked, and that'll make for an interesting discussion going forward. But most of this is inflationary. So I think there's opportunity here, as we talked about in the work session, but this is kind of a little bit more of the, I won't say pessimistic, but kind of just conservative stance on the expenses. I think we can do a little bit better than this, but we got some work to do. Any questions on those numbers, on those trends?
Randy, I don't know if it would be in those numbers or trends that you're talking about right now, but did you mention at our work session anything about the CARES Act?
Yes, good. Thank you, Jody, for reminding me of that. Yes. So we're losing 343,000 or so in state funding, and we're getting through the federal government. The total is 193,000. 20 of it is earmarked for the non-publics. So that 170 is not built into this. So what we hope to be able to do is supplant $170,000 out of next year's budget on expenses. So that will make this look better. So if we go back to this, we potentially, and I think we can, we just don't know for sure. That's why I didn't put it in here. We can improve this by 170,000 right up front.
Okay.
And again, and there's also some cost reductions that we're going to do that we built in here. So I think next year is going to be look a little bit better than that. Don't expect obviously to wipe the deficit out, but I think we can get closer to, well, down to $500,000 or less.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
upfront with you. I'm just being very conservative with these numbers at this point.
Okay.
Randy, this was really easy to read. I like how you formatted that for us.
Now, I mean, and if you want more detail, please let me know. I'm trying to give you a high view, and the detail's always there for you if you want it.
Hey, Randy, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Back to your simplified financial statement. I don't understand the two different lines, ending cash balance with levies, ending cash balance without levies.
Yeah. This just means that in our if we had levies in there that needed to be renewed, they would have shown two different numbers, because it would assume if you have a levy that's up for renewal, like we were prior coming into May, it would have shown that renewal in between those two numbers.
So we don't, okay.
So there's no reason. It's just the way it formats, but they're the same because we don't have any renewals in this time.
Got it. Thank you.
So let me just kind of go through some of those key assumptions on my plan, and I appreciate any feedback on this. Our state funding reductions, we know we're getting $340,000 reduced this year. We don't know for sure what a reduction is next year. The advice we're getting is it's going to be something. And so I did 10% for 2021 and 5% of our state funding for 2022, with the assumption we're back to last year's funding level by 2023. My crystal ball is probably as good as anyone's, and that's kind of the consensus in the treasurer's world on how to anticipate this loss in revenue. The key is if the state economy comes back faster, obviously in 2021, 22, we may not see those, but it's just depending how fast, sales taxes start and income taxes start flowing back into the state. I'm assuming minor increases in local tax collections just due to normal valuation. If I have a concern, and Denny may want to pipe on this one, is open enrollment. I'm assuming we're going to be able to hold steady on open enrollment, we're not going to see any major fluctuations in or out. And that's questionable based on how school starts, right? If families don't want to send their kids back, or if online opportunities become more attractive to families, that's like one thing we got to make sure we have some options to deal with that. But I'm assuming open enrollment, it stays about where it stays the same. I've assumed the absorption of 3 positions we've already talked about. That's the family and consumer science teacher, educational aide, the study hall monitor, and a bus route. And we're still looking at some other options on bus routes. I'm assuming our health insurance premium increases will be at or near national level. Let's put that, I think this year we may actually end up being a little bit better than that, but we've been below the national level on health insurance premium increases the last couple of years, and you just eventually got to expect it to catch up. we do know our consortium, some of our catastrophic type costs are fairly high, you know, cancer treatments, that kind of thing. And the rest of the spending, I'm assuming inflationary spending. So we're not looking to buy more stuff, just have price increases. We talked about at the meeting about, you know, kind of freezing the capital line in general fund. I've not reduced it, but right now we're going to do everything we can not to spend that unless we absolutely have to. Any questions on those assumptions? Do they make sense? Denny, do you want to weigh in on anything there?
No, just the point on open enrollment, that is certainly is a crapshoot to see what the rollout of school, the restart looks like. There's always the concern that parents are not going to want to send their kids back to a traditional school. So that is always a reality that we have to face. So just throwing it out there.
Anyone else have any questions on that?
Yeah, I guess just maybe a comment. I don't know if it's a question, and I don't know how you get your head around it, but don't you think in all the different scenarios that the cost of doing business goes up a little bit somehow or another? New supplies, buying stuff that you never really purchased before, you know, anything around the whole hygiene thing. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of an increase in just the cost of doing business.
Well, there's inflationary spending in there. And one reason I did not decrease, you know, Denny, we're decreasing curriculum spending by 10%. That could easily get absorbed by masks and, you know, and disinfectants, you know.
Scott, that's a great point. And that's the great unknown right now. The restart is going to look so different, and what the expectations are and guidelines that we have to do. There's absolutely the opportunity for increased expenses. That could range anywhere from supplies and equipment. It could actually increase because of human capital that we need to meet some of the guidelines as well. So that's another of the great unknown. So that's why our team is working on right now, putting together a handbook, if you will, based off of assumptions, what we think the start of the school year will look like. And we're doing our best to address what we think it will look like based on the assumptions. So we are at least being proactive if we're purchasing supplies, equipment, if we're looking at human capital changes. So that's why it's crucial that we're planning today for this. So we're not back in front of you in August and that graph Randy shows is upside down.
So going back, Scott, you're exactly right, Danny. That's a good answer. And so the other things recognize that I've not put the CARES fund, so that's going to help us. And frankly, I have resisted the what if in terms of this forecast for fall, because there's so many different options that are being floated around. They all have their costs and benefits in terms of the forecast. In some cases, there are some scenarios that we actually could save significant money, but it may be offset. So it's all speculation until we have a solid plan. I've assumed that we're back in school as normal, as close to normal as in the end of August. Now, how good an assumption that is, probably not a good, but I didn't know where else to go with it. But my guess is if there's a significant change, I'll be in front of you with a modification. We don't have to do another one until November, but if we see that these numbers are significantly different, I will bring that back in front of you. If it's just a shifting around of costs, I'm not going to worry about that so much as long as the bottom line doesn't change too much. But the bottom line changes, we'll have a similar conversation, and we may resubmit the 5-year forecast. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Last thing I want to talk about, and again, we're working on spending reductions. We mentioned potentially one of our ideas is an early retirement program. We put a note out to I put a note up to staff, Thursday or Friday last week, Friday probably was, and we've gotten significant interest in people saying, hey, what's the packet? What's it like? What's it going to look like? Right now, the plan would be, we're working with a company called EPC. That's all they do is school early retirement programs. After school is closed, I'll give them a new roster of staff and their hire dates and that kind of information. And they'll do another study to see what the potential savings is. And once they've done that study, I can bring it to you and we can have a discussion if we want to proceed with an early retirement program, probably in July, August at the latest. I'd ask for your approval to do that. And then the fall, EPC would come in, meet with any and all staff who are interested, talk through what the offering is, do some counseling with them. You know, in all these cases, staff would need to meet with STRS or SCRS and make sure they know what they're getting into. But I've been surprised, pleasantly surprised, the number of people who are interested. The real savings from this is if certified staff is interested, and there's not as many of them as the classified, but it could work either way. But stay tuned on that. We're not going to officially hire EPC or do anything until we have board approval, which I would like I said, it'll be July at the earliest, probably August. And then of course, we've already talked about, we need to have ongoing conversations about being on the ballot in 2021. And you know, it's hope this fall we start gearing up our messaging and doing some focus groups and getting the feedback we need to provide you with the information to make the best decision. If there's anything you need from me, if you're talking with your friends and family in the community and you want some more information just for a conversation, let me know. I want to equip all of us as best we can to be able to have some candid conversations and get a good pulse of the community. And which hopefully here next month I will live in the Huron City School District. So I'm polling myself on what I'd prefer.
Yay, Randy.
Property tax, by the way, for me, but that's not necessarily best for the district. So, all right. Any other questions? Are we comfortable with we're not comfortable with the deficit spending, I'm sure, but are we comfortable with how I got to the numbers and what we're going to provide to the state?
As comfortable as we can be, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that,
Well,
Again, probably
what Donna said also, it's very, very high level, but very digestible for a meeting like this. And of course, we had the 3.5, 4-hour work session to give us even more background. So thank you, Randy.
again,
Thanks, Randy.
if there's stuff that you want to see, let me know. Certainly I'll sit down with you individually, or if there seems to be a common interest, we can email things out. Jody had a question on one little fund, and it's easy for me to generate reports for the most part pretty easily and get that out to you. I want to be, it's always a fine line between providing you enough information to be able to make good decisions and not overload you, because in most cases, numbers aren't the thing that get you excited about doing this job.
Okay, thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
All right, Denny, you're up next on superintendent's report.
Okay, excuse me, thank you. First item 6A, I would like to recognize we had this month's Huron Tiger Core Value Scholar staff member. We had a staff member nominated by one of her peers. This month's core value is morality. And in the nomination for this staff member, she was recognized for her value-centered leadership, especially under very stressful, unprecedented times, for her leadership style, again, the morality, thinking of principles and core values. And this month, our core value scholar is Denise Zilski, our director of operations. So congratulations to you, Denise. Making quite an impression in your first 6 months.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Don't ask her if she's having second thoughts, because I'm wondering sometimes.
I'm honored to recognize you, Denise, for the hard work that you do and the way you go about your business, because you have to make difficult decisions, but you stick with your true north compass, and that's the way you make good decisions, right? So thank you, Denise. Next item 6B, we have a proclamation. If it's one of your attachments, it's a proclamation from the Erie County Commissioners, and they're recognizing the 2020 graduates of our Erie County school system, all of our Erie County school systems. Obviously, they are graduating under very unique circumstances. Certainly not what they thought the culmination of 13 years of school would look like. With that said, I'm deeply humbled by the way that our students have handled this, this entire situation. Graduation is taking place right now as we speak, about 7 p.m. this evening. It will go again tomorrow, 1 to 7-ish, or maybe a bit earlier and go later, depending on jockeying schedules around. But the Erie County Commissioners provided a proclamation, and this will be framed and placed at the high school. So I wanted to share that with you as well. I did mention graduation. We had 59 families, students and families today going through. As I mentioned to Mrs. Mass before we started the meeting, I had a chance to observe from a distance. Looks like the families and the kids really enjoyed being on stage together. It was really, the kids had an opportunity to spend quite a bit of time on the stage. We're in a traditional graduation, it's kind of a flyby. They could stop, their parents would come up on the stage, they would photos. So it really turned into a nice family event. And I'm very proud of our high school team, and especially our students and our families for the way that they have handled this situation. So again, graduation will continue tomorrow, 1 to 7. And if we have any reschedules, we'll go into the next day as well. What else do I have here for you? Let me back up to graduation. Friday, May 29th at 7 p.m., BCSN, that's our local sports channel. They will broadcast this year's graduation. As I mentioned on Saturday when we met for our work session, New Departure Films, they are there on site. They've been around the district the last few days, gathering footage of just senior experiences. So May 29th, that's Friday, BCSN. Pull up a box of popcorn and the recliner and you get a chance to see our kids. And we get to see Huron, the city of Huron showcased as well. So take that opportunity. Next item that I have, backing up one more time, senior related. Tuesday, May 26th, that's a week from today, we have our senior recognition night. That would be our scholarship night. It's going to be virtual. I would encourage you to view. I'll have a link. I'll email you a link by the end of this week that you can access. It will be also on, I think, a YouTube channel as well, but we'll cut the chase and get you the link for senior recognition night. That is Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. So mark your calendar for that. And now finally, what I've been trying to get to, the last two items, our stadium update. Giving you an update of what's happening with Memorial Stadium. Next week, we're going to start some underground construction. We're going to replace a sewer line, which would be, I guess, at the, I don't know if it's the north end of the stadium, it's the scoreboard end, or no, yes, scoreboard end. There's a sewer line that runs through the end zone underneath the field from sideline to sideline. We're going to have that replaced. That has caused some problems over the last few years. June 12th through the 25th, we're looking during that window of time to have the turf removed, the existing turf, and they'll do some grading and some site and facility prep prior to laying the new turf. And then between June 25th and July 4th, the new turf will be installed. So that's the tentative timeline right now. One of the things that we ran into in our last update from Maumee Bay was May 13th or 14th. But one of the things that they've run into causing a slight delay was the turf manufacturer. They were shut down for 30 days due to the stay at home in Georgia. So that has thrown a curveball and why the timeline's a little more fluid than it would be. So If we have any more concerns going through with the production of the turf, et cetera, we'll obviously recalibrate and take a relook at that as far as timelines go. But that's the best that I can give you right now, that by July 4th, the turf will be laid in place. But again, that still is very fluid at this time. And that is all that I have under superintendent's report.
Okay, thanks, Denny.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go back to Randy for your recommendations then.
Yes, so item A is approval of financials for the month. And I apologize, I see a typo in here. Don't know how you catch it, but it's April 30th is the time frame. So I have approved those financial statements. Nothing that you don't know about already. I'm asking you to approve the 5-year forecast as presented. In your attachments, I've actually had the forecast, and then there's a set of assumptions that go with it that's, I'm sure, is titillating reading for you if you haven't read it. I was, excited to write it. April donations for the month of April. We had $47,671 in donations. 43,000 of it was Huron Strong, and there was, of that 43,000, 40,500 were anonymous donations, and then the PTO put another 2,500. And then you can see we got some scholarship donations. So obviously a big month donations wise. The Huron Strong donation, the supply side for those social emotional support bags, if you will, that's been spent and gone. And then the rest of the money is being spent on Chromebook replacements.
The way that, if I may, Randy, it's such a generous donation. I thought I would walk you through the process of how that came about, just to give you a better understanding. Again, $40,000 by one family, it's substantial. They actually reached out to us back in, I don't know, 1st of March or so, and they wanted to do something that's directly impacting kids. They felt that the kids need something, because this was right around the time that schools were closed. So what we did is we put together a proposal, and hey, it was a blank line. So we thought, let's put a proposal together. But when they came to us, then we went to our school counselors and asked them for their input. What do you think our kids need? What do families need right now during these, again, unprecedented times? So we thought we'd put something together that's obviously school related, but also something that's fun, because we wanted to address the social emotional piece, which obviously is tied to anxiety and the feeling of stress and trauma during a situation that we're dealing with. So that's where the concept of the backpacks came about, with the stress balls, the jump ropes, the puzzles, and then obviously some goodies, trinkets, and things that were fun. And PTO had got wind of this, and they wanted to help out as well. So of course, we engaged our PTO. They stepped up, as they always do. We were able then to purchase the yard signs for our seniors. We felt that, again, our seniors are missing out on so much of that senior experience. So then we went with the yard signs. But we also recognize that we have over 150 some odd Chromebooks that are out. So when we were writing for this donation, we didn't expect the Chromebooks to go out, so we didn't budget for the damage, the wear and tear, the possible breakage. So we thought we'd write that into the proposal, and we were hoping just for anything, just enough for the backpacks. Well, lo and behold, this family stepped up and they brought the number to us. We never proposed the number. They proposed the number, and obviously we graciously accepted that. So that's how that came about. About $15,000 of that 43 were spent on the backpacks and the yard signs and contents of the backpacks, and approximately 28,000 now is earmarked to replace 150 Chromebooks that are out in homes right now. So it gives you a clear understanding of how this came about and why the dollars were utilized the way they were.
Denny, I know that we're not taking a vote yet, but is there any way, because the donor doesn't want us to know, but how can we express as a board our appreciation?
I
to the
think,
donor?
I think talking about it, again, we just want to respect, they specifically asked that it's anonymous. So I want to respect that. We did write, a thank you card with an insert, a nice narrative, giving them an update on the impact of their donation. I certainly think recognize it in a public forum like this. It will be now forever in the minutes of the board. And certainly any other way that you would like to as well, we're open as well, because again, this doesn't happen every day that someone graciously donates to children. Specifically, they wanted it to be directly to kids.
It was wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay, so is there anything in your agenda there, Randy?
Yep, I got a couple more items real quick. So item D is just that you approve, that money was put into a separate fund so I could easily account for it. So you got to approve the establishment of that fund and appropriate so we can spend it. It seems crazy, but I have the authority to establish it, but the auditors always like to see the paper trail that you approved it, even if it's after the fact. And the last thing is we're working on contracts. These are purchase service contracts for 2021, and you have the list there. Transition specialist services. I don't know, Denny, do you want to add anything to that? It's outside my area.
Yeah, yes, this is part of a student's individualized education plan. By the time they reach the age of 14, a school district has to provide transition services, transition to 712, transition, start putting together a career plan, a career path for students on an individualized education plan. So that's part of that federal document, IEP. And we partner with Perkins Local School and we share this. So it's a shared service with them. So Mary Jean's been doing this with our district since probably my first or second year here. Does a great job.
And the second item is a contract for our accelerator reader for next year. GAP document preparation. We have just you'll have a couple more contracts because we pay an accounting firm to do our GAP documents, to do our audit, to do our Medicaid audit. And so this is the first of those three contracts. I'm asking you to approve a contract with TransFinder for transportation software. We believe the software will more than pay for itself as we look at routes. And it also has the added benefit of improving communication with the buildings and with families. So this is in this unprecedented time where things are changing a lot. It'll give Denise a lot of flexibility to be able to make adjustments in the routes and stuff based on what is required to meet the safety requirements of the COVID pandemic. Next item is a resolution with the city of Huron for the Joint Recreation District. That is, our piece of facilities here in the city. There's already been some discussion at the city finance level that depending on what happens with recreation, we may get some of our money back on that one. But for right now, I can't remember it's 24,000, I think 25,000 is our piece of that, and we may get some of that back. And the last item is our annual, most of the student support software with NOECA. Those are all the services they supply us on the financial side, as well as Progress Book and on the student services side. And that's all my items.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I guess I just have a question about the TransFinder contract. When I looked at it, it looked like they had reduced it by 7,000 to try and it looked like more of an enticement to get you to accept the contract because you want to do it in a different way than what they normally do the contract, it looked like.
Well, they're trying to get, obviously they want the business, and also if we get that discount by committing for 3 years, there's the big cost is up front, and then there's that maintenance cost in the next 2 years. The big cost is getting the routes up front. But yes, they want the business, and so they offered those discounts, and they're not going to. The whole idea is they're going to get started right away if we approve the contract, but they're not going to. We're not going to get billed until next fiscal year, till July.
Yeah. And I guess I just wonder, not knowing what the start of school's even going to look like, is it too soon to enter into an agreement with a company for transportation if we don't even know if we're going to be transporting kids and when that's even going to start?
A great question. The problem is if we don't do it, it won't be. It end up not being. We won't be able to implement it fast enough, and we got to make decisions on staffing and routes. So, candidly, we have an opportunity. We know we can. Pretty sure we can reduce one route, but we might be able to reduce a second route with this and pay for it right up front, and that in itself would start paying for it. But you're right. It's a little bit of a. I won't say it's a crapshoot. We'll be doing some kind of transportation. I'm pretty confident. We just don't know what it's going to look like. And in fact, if it's more complicated than what we're doing today, it'll pay for itself faster as we have to adjust the routes. So yeah, is it a chance we could spend money and not use it? Yes, there is that risk. I'd be candid.
I just wonder if it's fiscally responsible in a time when we're telling people we need to spend cautiously or put freezes on spending, that we're spending that amount of money on something we're not even sure how it's going to look, for the start of the school year. I guess that's my question. Does it look responsible for us to be spending money when we're trying to reduce? That amount of money.
Yeah, I look at this. I think it's a really good question. It doesn't look good, but the risk is if we don't do it, we lose at least a year of savings because we wouldn't be able to implement it for next school year if we are not even back to normal. If we're just running buses, period, whatever that may be. And we're I don't know how Denny feels. All the indications are to me, we're going to be transporting kids.
Yeah, I think Jody's makes a great point. It's a calculated risk. I can't guarantee you that it's going to produce the results that we're thinking it would do versus doing it the old way. I can't guarantee that. As far as returning to school, our best assumption is we are returning in August in some way, shape, or form, some hybrid model. Well, it probably won't be every day, all day. It'll probably be split populations where you're at about 50% of capacity. Mm-hmm. Now, 50% of capacity on a bus throws all savings out the window because we'll have more buses on the road all day for more hours, and TransFinder won't help us with that either. So that will definitely be an issue. But have a good instinct hunch based on the assumptions that we will be back in school on some level to start August, just based on the talk, the chatter that's out there, what we're seeing in guidelines, what we're seeing happening in European countries and Asian countries, et cetera. Could that change? Absolutely. And I think you're spot on, though. It is a calculated risk to purchase, but we're looking at it as a long-term investment, as a way to improve efficiency. Right now, we have buses that are stopping and looping through the same neighborhoods 2 times. For example, the Rye Beach route. I've ridden that route several times, and we loop through it multiple times on the same route just because we don't have dedicated stops. I think we can do that better. We can do it more strategically. So that's the benefit that we're looking at. And we've also done some research. I've talked to personally colleagues in another district who went with TransFinder last year, but a much bigger district, a little more complex. but they're finding, and they purchased it for the same reason that we were at least exploring it as well. So just giving you a little background on the thought process that's behind it, but it's absolutely, it's a calculated risk though. I can't sugarcoat that.
Thank
Hey,
you.
hey, Donna,
Yeah,
just a point of order. I think we need a motion and a second so that we can open up this recommendation for discussion.
right. Okay, can we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report, please?
I'll make the motion, John.
Thank you,
Second.
John. Thank you.
Second.
And
Okay,
then I do have concerns whenever you're ready.
yeah,
Do we get a second?
Scott, second.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any other concerns then or questions that you'd like to address to Randy?
Yes, I do. It's John. I echo what Mrs. Mast said. And I just, I think before I was on the board, I believe I was at a meeting that the board discussed or decided to have a company or somebody look into their routes. Am I wrong? Wasn't that already being done, or isn't it?
Yeah, there's two things going on. We have the consultant who's working, and one of their recommendations is to use TransFinder, because they're finding the consultant is not going to design the routes for us, and but is saying our cost for our transportation is what's the right term? Much higher per student than it should be. And he's identified opportunities, but then and he's the one who pointed us to TransFinder, said, look, if you really want to get this taken care of, you need to look at getting better routing, and routing that can be flexible in terms of it's easy to adjust and change, and having good maps and good route sheets and that kind of thing. So there's a lot to it. And then there's the communication piece of that the TransFinder. So it's not just the route stuff, it's the communication piece too. I don't know, Denise, if you want to add anything, because you've worked with both of them.
Comparing our transportation costs to other surrounding districts and districts our size, our transportation costs are almost astronomically higher than other districts. When the gentleman that I spoke to that's doing our audit, he said with a district our size that there's no way that we should be running 8 buses. He actually recommended lower, quite a bit lower. Nothing that we feel that comfortable going that low with. He also said that with a situation like we have going on right now with not knowing what transportation is going to be like, one of the benefits that we would have with TransFinder, if we have to do a split situation, like an A and B where students are doing blended learning so many days this week, and then another group goes 2 days on the, later in the week. TransFinder, I can do routes that way to where all I have to do is just put group A and then click it, and it'll get me those students, those routes, those stops for the bus drivers. Right now, the way that we do it, drivers actually come in and work 10 hours each, sitting there going over their routes by hand. And you talk 8 drivers. So there's quite a bit of downtime with them trying to figure out their routes to begin with. Our left-right sheets are not up to state standards like they should be. This program does that so that they do meet state standards. A lot of stuff that he talked to me about with the audit, we have a lot of downtime with the buses. Sometimes we have drivers that are sitting for 20 to 25 minutes downtime that we're paying, where if we can tighten up the routes, we get more efficient with it. That would, we could save, he assured me that we could probably save in 1 month of transportation costs, almost what it would cost for us to pay for TransFinder, between fuel, driver costs. We would actually be able to eliminate 2 buses and 1 bus route at this point. I don't know if that helps at all, but that's just some of the things that when I talked to him about I talked to two different people. I talked to the gentleman that is doing our audit. I talked to someone from TransFinder, and I also talked to a company called VersaTrans, because the gentleman that did our audit didn't want to, you know, recommend any specific company for us. But I've talked to two, and TransFinder is a lot more economical than VersaTrans, and it's a lot easier to use as well.
And those are the two big names in Ohio, transportation, both those companies. They got the school district split between them.
Okay, well, I guess I personally would like to see what the outcome of I'm sorry, I just lost my, what this consultant came up with in general and how much we paid him. Just so I know.
Yep.
And the other thing, far-fetched, I know this may be, and so is there a way to work any kind of language into a contract that might be able to delay it if we do in fact find out that we aren't going to be busing people right away?
Johnny, that's a good question, and we can certainly ask that, because we're not going, like I said, we're not going to get billed until July. So we have some time if TransFinder is willing to take the risk in doing the route preparation, knowing that things may change and we may have to push this off a year or something. So we can ask that question. And
Randy, can I answer one question?
Yeah.
With the one thing with TransFinder, we would have to have a contract with them in order for them to do the routes because of HIPAA, because those routes are done with using student information from Dazzle and other, you know, student information like their names, their stops. So they won't do anything without a contract because that would violate student rights.
Yeah, no, and I'm not suggesting that, Denise.
No, I didn't know if anybody knew that. I found that out when I was speaking with them the other day. And then with the audit, I know, John, you had asked about the audit. One of the things that I had talked to him about when I spoke to him the last time, he was actually sitting trying to hand do all of the routes himself, and our left-right sheets are very difficult to do. He said that he would like to work with TransFinder to finish out our audit. He said it would be a lot quicker and more efficient if they could work together and finish it. It was what his words were to me. I don't know if that helps at all either.
well,
Like I said, I'm just really echoing what Mrs. Mass said, and I'm just curious about the money we already spent perhaps, and did we get a benefit out of that? And if we did, is that adequate for at least the time being? And like I said, can we ask about a contract that has different verbiage in it? I don't know if that's even a possibility, but I'm trying to be creative myself, say, I understand the benefit of this. I really do. Because I remember we talked about the workshop, especially with the sports programs. And like you said, the waiting time of our drivers. I see them sit at Marconi sometime on Thursday afternoons. So I understand it completely. But if we don't go back to normal operations in the fall, and we still have to pay money, again, like Mrs. Mass said, then we're spending money we probably shouldn't have spent, right? I mean,
you want to, I don't know if it's legit to modify you made the motion, John, for these recommendations. You can either withdraw the motion or modify the motion that you approve it with us giving us direction that you'll approve the TransFinder contract under the conditions of being able to delay execution if we're not in school or we're not transporting students in school year 20.
I'll be happy to modify it into that respect if that's great.
I guess we have a choice. We either got to remove it or modify it, and it's whatever the board wants. I'm just making a suggestion how to help you proceed if you're more comfortable with that.
Hey, can I ask a question before we modify it? I think that's a good idea. Is it possible to just remove it and just table it? What would that do logistically? Would you be able to present that to us in June and still have time?
Can I answer that one?
Please do.
So right now, it is a time crunch for us to even be able to do this for the start of the school year. If we wait much longer, it takes time for them to go through, and Denny, you can weigh in on this. From the gentleman that you spoke with, it takes time for those routes to get developed. And then also, once those routes have been determined, we also have to, on our end, take time to go out and look at the routes, see if they're feasible, if anything needs to change. We have to have the drivers look at the routes. Part of what we have contractually in the language in the contract talks about drivers' input on routes. So that means that we would, have to go and check each route, make sure each route is okay, that the stops are right, that everything meets the criteria that we need. We have to also be able to get information out to parents so that they would know. So if we waited that long, they have a little bit of a lull right now too, because of this situation with COVID, where they could fit us in, because it's a tight squeeze as it is. So I guess to answer your question, if we waited a lot longer, I don't know that we would be able to do anything for this school year. We'd have to wait until the next.
I could offer a suggestion to the board, just merely a suggestion. And it's kind of piggybacking off of what Mr. Jones mentioned. I think it was Mr. Jones. If you would give us parameters or expectations you would like to see in a contract, similar to what you were talking about, that if they cannot, let us know that they could delay the cost or the payment if school is operationally closed next year, or transportation, at least for that matter, does not occur. If we could build that into a contract, and any other stipulations that you would like, that way we wouldn't have to wait a month. And if we meet the stipulations, we would proceed. If those stipulations could not be met, we would revisit it in June. That way, just a suggestion.
I find it a little bit interesting, and maybe I just need someone to explain it to me, but I find it interesting that the person who is auditing the bus transportation can't finish their job, but they want to finish it with TransFinder. So I find that interesting.
Well,
that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's because Denise, it's because our route sheets are so bad. Is that right, Denise?
Isn't that the job of the audit person to figure that out? I don't understand why they specifically need this TransFinder company to help them figure out the routes. I guess I just don't understand. I just need someone to help me understand why.
Do you think that, did the consultant know that we didn't have software when he started the project?
Do you want me to answer, Randy, or
Yes,
do you want to?
No.
Okay. So from talking to the gentleman that's doing the transportation audit,
His name's Pete Jabisky, by the way. So
yes,
he
Pete
does have a name.
Jabisky. So, okay, thank you. I didn't know if everybody would know who I was talking about if I used his name. So in talking with Pete, I've talked to him several times. From what he has told me, he has looked at our routes. Like I said, the left-right sheets are a nightmare. I went on and we gave him information too, and I hate to say this, but I don't think that the information that on the driver's sheets are very accurate either with student counts. I sat on buses and watched cameras and saw how many students get on and off the bus, you know, how many empty seats we have. I think there's a lot more variables to what we have going on. And I don't think that he has an accurate view of everything. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. He could finish the audit with what we have, but I don't know that it is going to be as accurate as we would want it to be. He said with the, and I'll just say this, he said with a district our size that we really shouldn't have in his viewpoint, he said we definitely should not have 8, we should have 6, maybe even smaller. He said districts typically our size they can run on 4 routes. That's not something that I would think that we would want to do. I think he can finish the audit if that's, you know, but he thinks that it would be more suited for him to finish it and put his time in helping with the routes and getting a better view before he makes it even more of a serious recommendation to cut lower. Does that help?
I think
No.
so. I
Oh, I'm
just
sorry. I'm sorry.
don't, I just found it kind of interesting. I just didn't understand.
And I felt the same way when the subject first came up, because I thought, is this something that he's just trying to help push along, or is this something that, you know, he doesn't want to finish the audit? I mean, my mind went a couple different directions, but after talking to him longer and having a longer conversation with him, I talked to him last week again. I felt more comfortable with that after I talked to him, that I think that, you know, he could give us recommendations, but he would really like to see also what happens with the TransFinder program, because, you know, and I've heard it described before, the district is, you know, we basically door-to-door service. It's like picking up Easter eggs, is how it was described to me. So, you know, I'd be interested to see what he has to say again to, like his recommendation before and after, if we do run it through TransFinder.
So Denise, if I may, it sounds like, and I'm listening carefully, and Jody and John have asked very good questions. The value to the district from engaging with the consultant is simple. The consultant with experience in transportation says you've got a lot of inefficiencies. I have experience. I'm telling you, there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained. Now, that consultant does not implement those efficiency improvements. TransFinder does. Would that be a summary of this conversation?
That's actually a perfect summary.
Okay.
This gentleman works, you know, he worked for the ODE for the transportation department. So he's very versed in that. He has a lot of knowledge, and he said that we have a lot of wide open areas that we definitely could use a program like that to make the district more efficient by far.
We didn't know what we didn't know with transportation. That consultant, I'm not going to try to repeat his name. I heard it. I don't know it.
Japisky.
There were several syllables. This consultant might have come to Huron City Schools and said, you know, where transportation is concerned, you're pretty efficient. Leave well enough alone. Had he said that, we're not voting to approve TransFinder.
Right, and you're exactly right, Paul. And I think the other thing is to recognize part of Pete's challenge has been that our data for him has been really poor. Mm-hmm. And it's not and I don't mean to slam at anyone, but it's taken him a little bit longer because it's been a struggle with the data that we have. And Denise has had to spend a lot of time trying to recreate some of that data.
And TransFinder helps us pick up our game in that regard as well.
Yes.
Also part of what Pete typically would have done is he would have came to the district. He would have, done part of his audit here, watching students get on and off the bus, ride routes. And when all of this was going on is when COVID hit. So part of the challenge with his audit as well is the fact that he never got that second part of that engagement to actually come here and see firsthand. So I went on and had to look at cameras and give him information on how many students are sitting in seats, how many are empty. And that we also looked at start and stop times for, the buildings. So that was another piece of the puzzle that Pete was not able to finish, but just from what he saw, there were a lot of inefficiencies.
Okay. And so the most important question, what if we don't go back? Does this company even just share the burden? Let's say let's just make up a scenario for purposes of illustration. And for some reason, knock on wood, God forbid, and everything, we don't go back until after Christmas, and it's a shutdown through the calendar year 2020. What would happen then under this contract? Could it possibly be even just delayed? It looks like a 3-year arrangement. Am I correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
And the first year is the development cost, and then the next 2 years are just licensing. So the money is up front and then developing the routes. But I think that's, Paul, you're leading to good questions. I think we need to have that conversation with them, and and if we don't come back, why do we spend this money when we're not going to be transporting? We don't need the other two programs because Stop Finder for the parents, I can't remember what the other one's called, Viewfinder for the building secretaries, because we're not going to be moving buses. And so I can't speak for them since we haven't asked that question, but I think we need to ask those exact questions and say, look, if we commit to this and we don't come back to school, what can we do? Can we delay payment till next year and start then that kind of thing.
Yeah. On the other hand, I also don't want to squander an opportunity because of timing. So we don't spend the 15,000 because we're concerned, and then we keep running and we go back to school in August and grossly inefficient. So the board is in a spot here.
Yeah, that's why I went ahead and recommended it. And I'm trying to be conservative on things, but this is one of those where I think the return is so great, you feel like you can't take that chance. But if we don't do it, it does have the perception of looking bad.
Yes.
And I think, and if it doesn't go, we'll have to, in any case, we have to look at where to save $15,000 to offset that.
Right.
So there is some burden on us on the operations side, some accountability to make it happen. And I wouldn't be, like I said, I wouldn't be want to take this risk if I didn't think the payback was, but you are right there. You guys are very right, legitimate concerns. And I think you're great questions.
Hey, Donna, if I may, we've got a motion, we've got a second.
Yes.
How about we just call the question and see what happens?
Okay.
I mean, that's just or we can modify it.
Can we modify it again or not? We have to do it. No, we can't. Never mind. He called the question. Never mind.
All right. Go ahead and call, Randy.
Mr. Jones,
No.
Mrs. Mast,
No.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
All right, that's it for my item. Sorry about the lengthy discussion, folks.
That's
Don't be sorry.
Oh, good.
Hey, is anyone else got something on their screen that's come in?
Yes.
I'm
I have a lighthouse.
yeah, me too, up in Michigan.
me too.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. How's that?
Yeah,
that's better.
you cleaning up your emails there, Randy.
Well, I should stop sharing my screen.
Don't get in trouble.
I forgot I was on camera. How about
I was afraid we were getting hacked, but okay.
Well, I was worried you said that, going, I'm not seeing anything. How's that?
All
That's better.
Okay. There we go again. Okay.
So now we got your home screen or something.
Your desktop.
Gotta get rid of all that snow.
Yeah, that was Valentine's weekend on the coast of Lake Michigan. So
Cool.
Okay.
All right. We'll move to superintendent's recommendations. Denny, you're on.
Thanks, Mrs. Green. Item 8A, these are personnel. Item 8A, it's with a great joy that I have the opportunity to recommend Ms. Kathy Monroe as our EMIS coordinator. Start date effective July 1, 2020. And Kathy's with us, I believe, still this evening. And I just would like to welcome Kathy aboard. Kathy is coming to us from Vermillion Local School District, where she served as the EMIS coordinator and data coordinator for many, many years. So welcome aboard, Kathy. So I would ask you to approve Ms. Monroe. That's item 9A. Item 9B would ask for your approval. This would be change of placement on the certified job schedule. These are all contractual. We have 3 employees, teachers, Dustin Castor, Krista Legando, and Heather Hardy, who had continued with their education, masters and masters plus. And again, those are all through this. This is a contractual recommendation. Item 9C, I would ask for your approval of Carrie. This is an unpaid summer intern 2020 for Kerrigan Vargo. Kerrigan is a master's level student at Sayers College, community psychology. She's also going to be applying to her alma mater, OSU, for their doc program in school psychology. Her internship is 240 hours. She has already been itching to get started with our social support and services restart team, working on what that restart will look like. She's been having some peripheral conversations, doing some research for that team. She has a particular interest in working with students with developmental disabilities. So again, we're pleased that Kerrigan is choosing to do her internship with Huron City Schools. So again, this is an unpaid internship for Kerrigan. Item 9D, I would ask for your approval. This is another great opportunity for our district. Recommending that you approve the hire of Ms. Brandy Copa for the position of school counselor, grades 7 through 9. Recommending Brandy at Master's Step 2, effective August 20th. I did submit this weekend with my board update Ms. Copa's resume, and it's also attached to your board docs under executive. Ms. Copa comes to us. She's currently serving as the middle school counselor in Middleton, Wisconsin. It's Cromery Middle School in Middleton, Wisconsin. Ms. Copa is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, both her undergrad and grad degree. She and her fiance are relocating to the area in June, to the Genoa area, I believe, Genoa Woodville, relocating in June. She brings a strong background and experience in SEL, implementing innovative, proactive programming in her time at Cromery Middle School. She served as an SEL coach, so she really has been embedded in that SEL learning platform, if you will. So we're really excited. Now, she is in the process of getting her Ohio license. It's just slowing down right now because of getting the fingerprints through BCI, FBI, because no one's doing fingerprints right now, but she has submitted to the state of Ohio for her license. And obviously the hire will be pending receiving that license, but we're really excited. She went through 2 rounds of interviews with our team, included school counselors, administrators, and then central office folks, Dr. McDonald and I, and well, she really inspiring person to talk to. I really think she'll do well with our kids. Item 9E, we have staff contract renewals. I would just say the only exception to this as presented is we need to remove Ms. Jen Bender due to her resignation. So it would be the names as listed, excluding Ms. Bender. These are our certified renewals, those that are serving on a 1-year or limited contract. So annually, we have to renew these folks. So again, excluding Ms. Bender. Item 9F, I would ask for your approval of, we have our girls track coach, Ms. Van Conberg, and she was our girls track coach. She actually received her PAP, pupil activity permit in February, and it was a clerical on our end not to have her on the agenda in March. March got a little bit crazy around here, so we missed that. But just for your background, she, along with the other track coaches, began in November, started prepping for the indoor track season and doing off-season conditioning. That began in November. Running the hallways, weight room at the stadium, doing agility and so forth. Just giving you a little background because we lost the season, but the work leading up to the season, and we discussed this at our work session as well. So again, she's on the agenda today because we missed her in March. Item 9E, staff contract renewals. This is for our yearly one-year renewals for our our classified staff. Nope, I jumped ahead. My apologies. Let me back up. Item 9F, that was Mrs. Van Kallenberg. Item 9G, I jumped the gun here a bit. Item 9G is a continuing contract recommending for Ms. Amy Johnson. She's a high school intervention specialist. Ms. Johnson meets the eligibility requirements as identified in the Ohio Revised Code. She has earned her master's degree in her area or in her teaching field in special education. And she has worked in our district for 12 consecutive years. And Ohio Revised Code says with a master's and working 3 of your last 5 years. So she more than qualifies per Ohio Revised Code for her continuing contracts. We're recommending Ms. Johnson, item 8G. Item 8H, job descriptions. We have 2 job descriptions. Both of these are through the business office. We have our assistants to the treasurer, the budgetary coordinator, and payroll coordinator. Randy, Mr. Drurier did an update on the job descriptions to reflect, today's scope of work. So I appreciate him doing that. And then we have item 9I, and this is where I jumped way ahead. Item 9I, this is the addition to the agenda. This is the annual renewal of the limited or 1-year contracts for our classified staff. This was for employment for next year. Now, could that change if we have staffing, review staffing throughout the summer, depending on when and how we come back to school? That could certainly change as well, but that's the annual renewal. And that is all I have. Items 8A through I, with the exception of Ms. Bender under item 8E, and with the addition of item 8I. Ask for your approval as presented.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Jody.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Any discussion? Okay, Randy, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard, Kathy.
Kathy and Brandy. Brandy's, I should have
Thank
mentioned,
you.
Brandy is joining us from Wisconsin.
wow.
So welcome, Kathy and Brandy. We are absolutely excited that you are joining the Huron team. You guys are going to just make us stronger, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next, Mrs. Green, if I may,
Yes.
Item 9, superintendent's recommendation. This is the annual non-renewal of supplementals. This is contractual and it's actually Ohio Revised Code. But since we have lay coaches as well as faculty and staff who are under the negotiated agreement, we do this annually. It's really because we have lay coaches who are not represented under our negotiated agreement. So this is annual. So I would ask for your approval of the annual non-renewal of supplemental contracts. Those are the 1920 contracts.
Okay. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. Randy, did you get both of those?
Yes, thank
Okay, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mast,
Yeah,
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 10, superintendent's recommendation. This is under transportation. We have two families, I believe they're two separate families, whose children attend Norwalk St. Paul. And because we do not have routes and that travel to St. Paul, and by law, we do not have to create a special route. If we do not do that, students still have a right to transportation. So we have the opportunity to do something called transportation in lieu. And that's where each year then we cut a check to families. And I believe it's $250, which is absolutely much more economical than creating a separate route for 2 or 3 kids to travel to Norwalk St. Paul. So in this family, we have done this for multiple years. So I would ask for your approval of the transportation in lieu payment to the families sending their children to St. Paul.
Okay. Can we have a motion, please?
so moved.
Thank you, Jody.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Okay, Randy?
Mrs. Mast,
Yeah,
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. And the final item that I have here, we saved the best for last, item 11, superintendent's recommendation. I would ask for the board's approval to pass resolution for the 2020 graduates, as long as they have met the requirements as stated by the Huron Board of Education in the state of Ohio. I would ask for your recommendation to accept the 2020 graduates.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, Randy?
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mast,
yeah,
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. And that is all that I have this evening.
Okay. We're at the point where we do our committee reports, and I know most people haven't been able to have any kind of committee meeting, but does anyone have anything they want to share about their liaison group?
you know, Parks and Rec actually did meet. We met through Zoom. And, you know, just discussed some of the protocols for this summer, especially for Boat Basin. What is able to be done at Fabens, what isn't. We also talked about the fact that it's going to be really great. The lake is actually projected to be going down in level this month and June, about 6 to 8 inches. So that's a plus. And that's about all we talked about.
Okay. Yeah, it was rolling real high today. It's hard to believe it'll go down that much, but we'll keep our fingers crossed.
The debris on Cedar Point Road is amazing.
I bet.
Yeah.
Any other board member have a report that they want to share?
Briefly, athletically, been in contact, actually to echo Superintendent Murtor's report on the field. It's all a go at this point, but also we're looking at the Hall of Fame banquet, and we're kind of moving forward as if it's going to happen. Of course, that's usually in mid-September, mid to late September. But we are monitoring the situation week by week. Our posture now is to proceed as if we're going to have it. If in July sometime we have to bail on it, we'll do so at that time. But we're keeping our eyes on the news and the COVID-19 tendencies.
So, Mr. Ward, are we going to need to do anything different accounting practices this year? Are we happy with how we handled it last year?
I think at this point, we will keep it the way it is. I'm glad you asked that question, but at this point, yeah, I think it worked fine. But for now, let's continue as we have.
Okay.
Paul, have you guys selected the inductees?
No, that usually happens it's soon, late May, early June. And
Okay.
so I've been talking with the athletic director about this, setting up that meeting here just this past week and a half.
Okay. And I'll just give a short report for EHOVE. They decided, obviously theirs isn't a typical graduation because the kids all have their own home schools. It's more just a presentation of their portfolios, and they had scheduled by program areas, for example, like welding and health services and that, and the kids drove up in the cars like they are at Huron and got out and walked across the stage and had their portfolio presented to them by their instructor, and then went off the stage. So sort of the same, not obviously ideal, like what we would have all liked to have seen, but they picked something that worked for them. So I'm happy to see that. And the building construction's on schedule, if not just even a little bit ahead, because there haven't been any kids there to work around. So that's good. Okay, under new business, we have in June our traditional return to a summer meeting, or I should say morning meeting for the summer. What do you guys think about trying an in-person? Do you want to do Zoom again? How would you like to proceed?
I would just like to
Does
say,
it have, do we have to go by guidelines from the state? I mean, as far as getting together as a board, that's fine, but opening it up to the public, how do we do that in June?
Yeah, that would be the same issue that we've had all along.
I mean, do we need, there really haven't been any guidelines except there's still, no groups larger than 10.
Yeah. Well, then it looks like, are you all on board with that though, to changing to a morning meeting like we usually do in June, July, and August?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
We have to do it Zoom wise. I'll promise to have the technology worked out better.
me too.
May I just ask a question or ask for your consideration, if you will? We are scheduled tentatively to begin negotiations on June 16th, 17th, and 18th. That runs all day. On the 16th, we're actually starting at 7:30 a.m. Poor planning on my part, obviously, but trying to get this thing scheduled with, we already bounced around and created MOUs. Would anyone be opposed to meeting on the 15th or a week later? Again, I hate to impose. My challenge is I have our attorney booked to be here and he's very expensive. So I would hate to leave him waiting for an hour or two while we're in a board meeting and putting negotiations off just because what we're paying him.
I would
Would a
not
different,
say I'm opposed. I will say I wouldn't be able to attend.
Got it.
on the 15th, Paul?
Correct. Well, if we go Zoom, if we go Zoom in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, then I could. If we go Zoom Monday morning, the 15th, I would be able to attend.
I'm good with that.
That's fine.
I'm
You're
fine.
okay, Cody? Okay. Scott, does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I apologize for the inconvenience. It's just trying to get the union to sit down and coordinate our calendars. We've already changed it twice now, so we just really like to get that started.
Yeah,
It's going to be a drawn out process and good collaboration, but it'll be lengthy.
okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
All right, so our next meeting will be June 15th, and we're saying 8 AM, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So do we want to commit to Zoom at this point, or do you want to wait to see if we get new guidance before then?
let's commit to Zoom, because that works better for Paul.
Okay, oh, that's right. So I'm sorry. Never mind. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Paul. I did hear you say that.
That's okay.
That's good.
Thank you for the flexibility, everybody. I appreciate that.
Certainly.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we just need a motion then for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Jody.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Second.
We need a second.
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 Thank you.
Fourth.
Okay, Randy.
Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
and Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Now, Denny, you can leave.
Thank you.
And
Enjoy. Stay healthy, all. Stay healthy.
Yeah, all of you too.
I
Bye-bye.
apologize for
Bye.
my lighthouse pictures. Okay.
Or we enjoyed looking at your vacation.
I wish I'd known earlier. I'm kind of embarrassed, but
Kathy, welcome.
Yeah, welcome again.
Thank
Kathy.
you. Thank you all.
Thanks for hanging in there for that exciting meeting.
It was a great meeting. It was nice to meet you all via Zoom.
Indeed. I love
I
that.
can't wait to see you.
Our farm teams.
All right. You guys take care.
I want to be careful.
Good night.